welcome to the Car Guy channel. We got a fantastic show for you guys. We got a couple real interesting surprises. I'm hoping we find some footage of that beautiful, we called Old Blue, that 1967 427, 435 horse Corvette. I was invited to a little bit of party and bring the car to the show, and I'll show you what happened when we left there. I don't want to spoil the surprise. Got a great car of the week. I know we've done some Mustangs before, but I got a Mustang I just got to show you guys for car of the week. And of course, we've been doing a little bit of work and detail stuff for the shop and a little bit of cars here and there, and the pedal cars, the Car Guy stuff, the signs, the posters, and all the stuff we kind of like. But I do want to introduce you guys to the Soapbox Derby car. We did finish the car that we're going to be using. It's going to be hosted by the Willow Glen Lions Club. So sit yourself down. Two things you don't touch. Don't touch that dial and don't touch these cars. Hey guys, here's the car of the week. The car we promised you is a 1966 Ford Mustang. It's an A-code car. We're going to go into some codes and all sorts of stuff because that's about the car. But some cars, there's more about the cars. It's the history and the story behind them. This car is from a very, very good friend of mine named Keith. Keith, I'm blessed to have a good friend like Keith. We've been around the block with cars. We bought them, sold them, traded them. You kind of name it. We've done it with cars, and he's a great car collector. But one thing about this type of car and this particular breed of car really has a lot to do with Keith's wife. Keith's wife actually had a 1966 Mustang back in the earlier years when the cars came out. When Sherry went ahead and got married, she handed the car down to her younger sister. Then her younger sister traded the car in, and her dad has never really stopped talking about that Mustang, and he talked about it for years. So not Keith being a good son-in-law, he went ahead and searched for the right 1966 Mustang that actually fit the bill, that had all the bells and whistles. So as a surprise, Keith went ahead and bought this car, had the car completely redone back at our shop back in the 80s. We redid this car back a long time ago. Keith did a lot of work himself on the car and shipped the car all the way. Matter of fact, no. He shipped his father-in-law all the way to California, and his father-in-law drove the car back to Florida as a surprise gift. What a neat gift to get. And Keith's father-in-law and Keith always wanted to keep this car into the family, which is the right thing to do. And Keith promised this car to his youngest daughter, Courtney. And kind of the neat story is Courtney can't sell this car. So Courtney, when you watch this show, this car is blessed. It's not for sale. So Keith and I can't buy or sell it. Neither can you. It's kind of one of those in-the-family cars. So what the story about that car is, Keith's father-in-law passed away many years back. And Keith went ahead and got the car back again from him and kind of redid the car, did some stuff over, and we just got the car back from Arizona. And we went ahead and rebuilt the engine, serviced the car, got this car here completely road ready. And this beautiful, nice, soft yellow in this car here is just absolutely gorgeous. Being a GT car with an A-code. Go back to the A-code story. A-code cars are all V8 with a 4-barrel carburetor. And that's a big deal. Being a GT with the dual exhaust coming out the back of the car, automatic. They had a lot of options for these cars, but one of the neatest options they have, and I think probably why Courtney will really like driving this car here, factory power steering. Power steering to me can make and break a lot of cars. This car happens to have power steering. A lot of Mustangs did not have them, so I think it's a very desirable option to have. Nowadays, a lot of your Mustang stores and your collectors and all sorts of companies have come up with kits now to install power steering to make it a little bit more driver and user-friendly for the way the market is today. And we made the car more user-friendly because the car's going to be going to Texas. And I think air conditioning is going to be a real big deal on this car right here. Courtney's married to a really nice guy named Gino, and they got a baby coming on the road. So I have a feeling that the air conditioning is going to be a real big plus for this car and for the family that's going to be using the car. But when we did this, we kind of dressed the motor up a little bit. We kind of had to. We had to tickle it, do a few little things to make it kind of nice. And so we put a little bit of chrome valve covers on it to kind of sweeten the car up. And all of it's painted all the correct Ford blue and all the things that really make the car nice. But you know how I am on the show. Safety is always a big deal. So everything's kind of done on a safety note to make sure it's right. Doing air conditioning on a power steering car takes a little bit of work and a little bit of know-how. You guys have done the EC add-ons before, or you're kind of a mechanic and you're watching the show, you're going to kind of understand what I'm getting at. Doing the air conditioning on these cars and doing the power steering, I don't know, you got to do a little tweaking, a little grinding, a little bit of drilling, and a little bit of messing around to get that so it does not interfere with being able to fill the car for power steering fluid. But there's so much to this car here that just makes it absolutely fantastic and sets it above a lot of other Mustangs that are out on the road. Besides being an original, non-rust California car, the car was actually built at the San Jose plant. When you take the code numbers and all the stuff off these cars, you can decipher them pretty much built down to the hour and the day and who bought it, who sold it. History on them is really a pretty big deal. Pedigrees on cars is a huge big deal all through every breed. I don't care what make a car. But the San Jose plant doing these Mustangs was kind of a big deal for guys who live down here local in the area. So when Keith lived in California at the time, he kind of really wanted a San Jose car because that's what his father-in-law really bought, was a San Jose car, and he kind of wanted to get close as he could to the original piece. But when he found a GT, that's the holy grail. You got the GT lights in the front of the car. We had to replace one of the bars that go inside the inside. They look like big ice cream scooping spoons. But, you know, little things like that that make the car absolutely spectacular, and the color on the car. This color is just, this is 1966 Mustang yellow, and it is just absolutely superb. And you stand back and you can just tell just the quality level of the car. There's the right emblems on it, the 289 emblems. These hubcaps, there are so many options you can really do with wheels and stuff like that, but I'm a firm believer of a steel wheel. Hubcaps are just a great touch, for the originality and showing the car, the authentic of the car. It's authentic with a hubcap. Not everybody had the GT style steel wheels is what they actually called them. So they had a few options, you know, Mustang had to do on the car. This is a great deal. If you ever have an issue or whatnot, anybody can handle and service a regular steel wheel with the hubcap on it. You got radial tires, and I'm telling you, what a car to drive. When you drive this car, you're going to see this on the show. It's a lot of fun. On the 66 Mustangs, if you notice, they had the 289 emblem, like I mentioned, on the front with the V on the bottom of it for the V8 cars, but the GTs had the GT emblem on the side of the fenders. What's really kind of cool is these stripes. Now, not all the cars had them, but the GT cars had the GT stripe. They went right across it, and it went right over the letters of the Mustang letters, and they shot all the way to the back of the car. Options in these cars, I always think, make and break a lot of these cars. Like I talked about earlier about the A-code and the 4-barrel and the V8, the power steering and the air conditioning. And if you notice in this car right here, this steering wheel, of course, every car has a story. So my buddy Keith wanted to put a new steering wheel on this car, and I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. I don't give away too many parts, and he'll agree and admit to that one. So he goes, I need to get a new steering wheel in there. I said, hey, Keith, 5 years ago, probably on the date of January 15th, 1988, or whatever it was, I sent you a steering wheel because I got a mistake, and they sent me 2 at the same box. So he remembers that box of the steering wheel, and it sent it to me. We went ahead and put it on the car for Courtney. The steering wheel is a really, really cool reproductions made by Grant Steering Wheels. And these are really nice to have on the car. And they just kind of just makes it, as far as I'm concerned, is really kind of neat. Now, some options that Mustang had, and maybe Gino and Courtney might want to do it later on, they had wood grain kits to replace them. And Mustang had a couple different dash options at the time. These actually have gauges. You'll have your fuel, you'll have your oil, and you have your speedometer. Then you'll have your amps, and you have your temperature. These are actually gauges. They had another different package also that had what we call idiot lights in these days, where they were kind of a set of lights on the car. But we went ahead and we didn't do nothing with this. But these are things you can actually add to your Mustang, and people do add a lot of options and a lot of things to them. And I don't know how well the camera can get to this, but we got right here an inside factory remote mirror. Now, it's not on all Mustangs. It's not an easy item to come by. And of course, the Mustang stores all sell all these type of options if you can. But I do make a statement on the show, and I make it 1,000 times and all year round. A car is only original once, and having the original parts on the original car is really the right way to go. And if you kind of notice in this car that when from the outside of the car had the vinyl roof, I think the vinyl roof really makes the yellow really spectacular. But in these air conditioning systems, this right here, I used to call them a knee knocker, but that's really all they had available was the under the dash unit. Nowadays, they have companies like Vintage Air has a system that actually bolts underneath inside the dash, which takes up some of your glove box space, and you can actually put vents under the car. It kind of hides it and tucks it away, so you don't really have to have what we call the knee knocker. Some of these cars had center consoles. If you have a center console with an automatic shift lever in there, or a 4-speed, whichever option you have, you're going to have one heck of a time. You can't have the air conditioning unit in there. It's very difficult to go ahead and put it in. So the underneath dash units are kind of a really pretty big deal. But a black interior car with these type of seats, they had pony seats, and pony's a whole nother option. But being black interior, The seats that we're looking at, these are all original. None of this was ever replaced. Carpets are all original. The seats are all original. Everything inside this car here, the door panels, the dash, everything you're seeing, none of that's been done. It's all been detailed. Now, Keith's a very high-end collector. He likes good stuff, and he takes care of his stuff extremely well. And his wife, Sherry, always likes all his cars with the best paint, the best way that they can look, because she has a lot of class, and she likes them to look really right, too. So it's a really good way to have him. So he's a good collector. He keeps his stuff up. And this just shows how well a car can be kept and maintained throughout the years of a couple different owners. So they bought it from the original owner and went to his father-in-law, now back to him. Now, Courtney, this car's on the show because this is how this car's going to look in 10 years when I come and visit you guys. This is the letters I'm talking about. When you go ahead and see in a Mustang, they usually start out with their set of numbers, and in the middle, you're going to see a letter called A. A code determines what type of motor they had, what style, what options the engine came with, being the 4-barrel or 2-barrel or the 6-cylinder cars, so on and so on. So that's a pretty important issue to go ahead and have an A code on the car. This 289 engine is an excellent motor. These are fantastic, a lot of power, and they did really the right thing for them. And there's the air conditioning compressor that I was talking about earlier. Now, these cars do not have factory air. They're all pretty much like an add-on air on them. These are the pieces. The factory made a kit for people to put on and dealers to install. But the way the setup is done is it's so close to the power steering, we had to do some modifications for Keith to make this so this is a little more user-friendly. I think it's always been kind of a little bit of a negative sometimes trying to change and check the power steering fluid within times and years on the roads, but I'll tell you, after it's in the car and it's set up, this is really a cool way to go. All brand new ignition wires, belts, fan shroud. Fan shroud is recommended highly for a car with air conditioning. Now, when the car's going to be back over in Texas, it's very, very possible that an electric fan will need to be installed. Electric fans usually go in the very, very front of the condenser. There's not a lot of room on a Mustang to put one in. So out here in California, we don't have too many problems, but I'm pretty sure they'll find that out over in Texas and see if it's an issue or not. But people can put some fans inside the front of these so the fan actually pushes the air. Fans are called pushers and pullers when it comes to electric fans. We went ahead and took care of all the cleanup inside the engine compartment. We did dress it up, a little bit of chrome valve covers, give the car a little bit of style. All new paint, of course. The motor's completely gone through, belts, hoses, and all that stuff. This, to me, is a good example of a nice, fresh, wholesome 1966 Ford Mustang. And one great, really, really, really cool option, these gas caps. I think Mustang, Ford, you guys had it down because these look really cool. The big GT emblem on there, a nice big old school gas cap. Take that sucker, twist it off, and there'll be a couple cables to keep it on the car. Great way to put gas in. And a big deal for GT cars, and I'm always a fond fan of this, is the rear exhaust comes out of the rear valance. These were called trumpet-type exhaust tips that Mustang had coming out the back. If you notice, Corvette did that in 1963 through 1967, coming out the rear valance like this. Mustang did it on the GTs. Of course, Shelby had its own styles of how they did them, and I'm telling you, I think that makes and breaks a car. I just love the look of that, and that really, really works for me. I think one of the neatest touches on one of these cars in the 1965, 66 Mustangs, even the latter years, but these are my favorite years, 64 and a half, 65, 66, is the vinyl top. The vinyl top makes this car here to me. I think it just really, really pops. It makes it work on it. Vinyl top's in fantastic condition there, Keith. It is absolutely beautiful. Good job. Really nice and clean. It's the factory material. This top was redone at one particular time. And you can actually add a vinyl top to your Mustang. There's a lot of work to install them, but the big deal is you got to go ahead and get these big chrome bars that go all the way around to the back. This is not a stainless piece. It's actually a casted piece to go on the back. So to put a vinyl top on your car, highly, highly recommend it. So guys, that is your car of the week. Courtney, this car is ready, and it's get on a car hauler. It's all the way to Texas for you and Gino and your new little baby.
The beat won't stop. It's always on my mind until I reach the top. Oh, live long and sing.